So we're calling this thing Baby Yoda. Like, I don't know how they could have possibly come up with a name. If they'd been like, it's Jim, everybody would have been like,
Oh my
this is
god,
ridiculous.
if it had been Jim or like Gary, that would have been wicked. It's like, you know what? Screw it. Just call him Derek. Like,
Yeah.
that would have been amazing.
Okay, so the three things we're going to talk about. What did people think of Ahsoka? Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. Baby Yoda's name has been revealed. And then also, why did Ahsoka forget that Yaddle was also a Jedi, famous Jedi? Those are the three main talking points. So we're going to get through these as as efficiently as I possibly can, because I want to know how you felt about each of these things. So speaking of Ahsoka, I was actually expecting, given kind of the reaction there was to the casting of Rosario Dawson at the time, of the announcement that Ahsoka was going to appear on the show, and how much everybody loves Ashley Eckstein, who's been, voicing the character for, almost a decade now, probably more than a decade now. I was expecting people to be much more polarized about the ultimate portrayal of Rosario Dawson as they were, but our commenters, I'm not sure about CBR, our commenters at Screen Rant were actually like pretty overwhelmingly positive. Robert Armstead said, she was great. Such a beloved character coming to live action, was never going to please everyone, which is interesting because almost everybody on Screen Rant loved her. Her look, action sequences, and demeanor were all really well done. Rosario Dawson is awesome, which is true. I think Rosario Dawson is awesome too. I don't know. I'm sorry. Bevy Dan, I'm probably mispronouncing your first name. I apologize. Said, this was the best episode so far. I love Dawson as an actor, but I was skeptical of her portraying one of my favorite Star Wars characters, but she pulled it off spectacularly and owned it. Please give her a spinoff series. I second that. I would love to see an Ahsoka spinoff series. So I also like the portrayal. There's a few weird things about the episode for me, which is like, I feel like they kind of had to tone Ahsoka's powers down a bit, kind of in that final confrontation. It was a bit more like style over what I would actually expect. Like, in my mind, Ahsoka could have totally raided this town, saved everybody, and, most likely not had anybody die. And like that final kind of battle, while cool looking and very Kill Bill, it was cool, but I wasn't really sure why she didn't just like force push that chick into a wall or something, or into the water and be a done deal. But in general, I did like, there was a lot of homages to kind of iconic shots of Ahsoka from the previous series. There was just really great action. I thought it was cool when she cut the big gong sort of in half. Like, it felt like a character that I really love. Ahsoka's probably one of my favorite Star Wars characters. Like, I did feel like this was as close to a live action extension of her as I kind of would imagine, especially based on how she's portrayed in Rebels. So I'm curious what you thought, Steve. Rosario Dawson, Ahsoka, live action.
Oh man, I loved every good goddamn second of this episode. Like, this is, I agree with all of the commenters that you've mentioned thus far. I think that Ahsoka Tano, like when she first started off in Clone Wars, she was this young kind of, I don't know, wistful Jedi who was just wanting to be part of the Order, and was assigned to Anakin and called him Sky Guy for no reason. And and
Yeah.
that was like, all right, who is this? They kind of jumped the shark. They kind of put this person there. But her growth over that series and into Rebels, as you mentioned, and now into this, is one of the best Star Wars things in general. Like, she as a character is one of the coolest in the Star Wars universe. Like, she is amazing. I love her progression, and I think that Rosario Dawson as the older, wizened version of that character is great. And I think maybe that speaks to the problems that you and I actually had with that too. I think that you summed it up quite nicely when you talked about the end confrontation that she had with Magistrate, how slow and plodding it was, although scenic, as you mentioned too. But I think that's probably why, like, she's getting into the ceremony of it again in a weird way. And I think that's kind of her age showing a little bit, and her respect for traditions in a very strange way, even though she shirked them before.
Yeah.
But I thought it was great. It was the only episode, as much as I love The Mandalorian, that I wanted to immediately watch all over again. And that was from the
Yeah.
Kurosawa elements that you mentioned, and like everything that was going into that, the samurai stuff, the Ronin stuff, those two different Ronins coming together, all of the things I'm sure you're going to talk about with the revelations that came with it were just very cool and incorporated really well from Filoni into the actual Star Wars universe, and the bridging the gaps, if you like, and a sign of things to
Yeah.
come. I thought it was fantastic. I thought Rosario Dawson, who I think is just in general great, did a phenomenal job with it. So, and I think I can speak for the CBR readers by and large, in our comments, who said basically the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you made a point that I was going to make, which is I would argue that Ahsoka might be one of, if not the best written and most like developed Star Wars character in the entire, franchise. Basically, I can't, with the exception of maybe like Leia and a couple other people, I would say. But I mean, compared to someone like Luke Skywalker or even Darth Vader, like I think her arc and especially the stuff that a lot of people just aren't familiar with because they didn't watch Rebels or they didn't watch the Lost Clone Wars episodes or any of that stuff. Like it's really, really good writing and really, really interesting character development. It's a character that walks away from the Jedi Order because she thinks they're too rigid, and they're the type of people that would, in their efforts to be so moral, they're kind of like missing the people on the ground that actually need their help and stuff like that. I think it's very cool, like what they do with that character.
It's incredible, and anybody who hasn't watched Clone Wars, and I think I have, just real quickly, I have a good way to watch Clone Wars. You just watch seasons 4, 5, and then the last part of 7 is what I've identified as watching Clone Wars, and that's essentially around the Darth Maul story, and
Yeah,
that is the most important thing that you have to watch from Clone Wars, and then Rebels. And I think those two characters of Darth Maul and Ahsoka Tano are so beautifully, amazingly well written and intertwined that you see, as I mentioned
yeah,
before, this character who kind of came in and was just a nothing, kind of annoying character. And then you have Darth Maul, who appeared in Phantom Menace, who was also a nothing, literally throwaway character. And seeing what happens to both of them it's just so well done. It's really beautiful storytelling. And everybody, I think, needs to watch those too. You don't have to appreciate this episode. I think, like, my brother
yeah.
did not watch those, but he read the Thrawn trilogy and was like, "Oh my god, I'm super excited about this." I'm like, "You have to go back and watch them because it just adds so much more context to this and the story that they're telling." But if you
Yeah.
didn't and you just saw this, I think
Yeah.
they did a good job with that too.
Cool. This is the main point that I want to just talk about, was because sort of geek out about Ashoka. But I'm curious. We also found out Baby Yoda's backstory, as well as Baby Yoda, aka the child, aka his actual name is Grogu. That's
Mm.
his name. We found out that he was a youngling at the time Anakin stormed the Jedi Temple and became Darth Vader and struck the younglings down, but he was ferried away by a yet unnamed character. It'll be interesting to find out who that person is. I'm sure we will one day find that out. And we kind of found out that he's maybe got like a little bit of a little potential dark side tendencies because he sort of has lived in fear for the last several years of his life as he's sort of been on the run, and he also has developed a pretty firm attachment to the Mandalorian. So I'm curious though, Grogu, was this was this the name that you were expecting? I will say that almost all Star Wars names are dumb.
How
And
dare you?
I'm being hyperbolic, obviously, right? But they are very comic booky, kind of hyper stylized names, Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker. Like these things are, Yoda, Yaddle, like Boba Fett. Like these names are sort of silly names in general, right? But I like our commenters were kind of all over the place on this one. So Ed Constantine the Third said, so the problem is that people are still calling him Baby Yoda, and he slags on Screen Rant here. He says, Screen Rant, think you could help that by not calling him Baby Yoda in every single article title yourself. So, Ed, along with some of our other commenters, made a decent point that, like, any name other than Baby Yoda was going to be insane because, he's been called the child, he's been called kid, he's been called, now Grogu. And like our article title, I think, was Baby Yoda's real name doesn't exactly roll off the tongue or something like that. So, we're still referring to him as Baby Yoda. Chris Teride said, the problem with Baby Yoda's real name is it was never going to live up to the hype and popularity of this character, but I don't have any problems with the name, really. And Mindy Shiflett said, he will forever still be called Baby Yoda, to which Brandon Oliver said, Mindy Shiflett, what happens when he's 900 years old? And Mindy replied, he will still be and always will be Baby Yoda. So, I don't have a problem with Grogu as a name. I think it's ridiculous sounding. It's also kind of sounds like an old man to me, and it's like it does feel kind of like weird juxtaposed against this tiny, adorable little creature. But this is Star Wars. Even Yoda is sort of a ridiculous name if you think about it. So we're calling this thing Baby Yoda. Like, I don't know how they could have possibly come up with a name. If they'd been like, it's Jim, everybody would have been like,
Oh my
this is ridiculous.
god! If it had been Jim or like Gary, that would have been wicked. It's like, you know what? Screw it. Just call him Derek. Like,
Yeah.
that would have been amazing. First of all, I can't remember your commenter's name there, but she's absolutely correct that everybody's still going to call it Baby Yoda. I don't give a good goddamn of when or how old that character is. It's still going to be Baby Yoda in all of our hearts and
Yep.
minds. Also, Grogu sounds like just something that you put on your plants, like it's just a weird kind of gel that you put on your
Yeah.
plants. I was going to say pants. Maybe you put it on your
As
pants.
your pants. Well,
Maybe your
I
pants.
mean, you might want to
Um,
put it on your pants depending on.
Okay, Benjamin. Jesus, this is a family show. Okay, but really, it also sounds to me. The first thing I thought of when I heard the name was Warcraft 2, because when the orcs walk around, they go goo goo. Like when they're building it, it's like goo goo. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
whoever named this kid is definitely just been playing some like Warcraft 2.
Yeah.
I think it's as good as name if you're gonna get. Like there, you are absolutely correct in saying that Star Wars naming conventions are the batshit craziest things you will ever experience, and not just like the main canon, but like read some of the old comics. Like check out some of the
Yeah.
Knights of
Yeah.
the Old Republic shit, man, because that will blow your mind and just make you wish that you had
Yeah.
named your children different things. They're just batty. But I think that this like I think your commenters are also right. It was always going to be an uphill struggle. There was no way that they were going to name it anything as
Yeah.
satisfying as Baby Yoda, let's say.
Yeah. The I will say, I guess we'll skip some of the Yaddle. For me, the Yaddle thing, like I got why people were sort of upset about that, but at the end of the day, I mean, Yaddle, like, we never really saw Yaddle after the Phantom Menace as far as her being on the council. There's extended universe, now Legends, stuff where she had died, I think during the Clone Wars, if I remember correctly. We don't really know if that was her fate or not, but we never really saw this character with Ahsoka. So, I don't know. She said the line is, I've only ever known of this, the one other being like this. To me, like, I'm willing to give her credit for the fact she wasn't around at the time Yaddle was actually on the council. So we'll skip that one, but we can end this Star Wars segment with my comment of the week, which was from TJ Dalton, who said, watching with my friend, he asked after the episode, what was the name again? Speaking about Baby Yoda. I couldn't remember, and I said it was Golgathon. So for me, his name will forever now be that. And I like jumped out of my skin when I read that, because Dogma is one of my favorite movies, and the demon from Dogma was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. So
Wow.
Baby Yoda, Grogu, the child, kid, Golgathon. I'm good
Sure.
with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too. I love that
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, he's just gonna turn into a giant goddamn demon, and
Yep.
we're all gonna
Exactly.
be happy about it. Like, who knows? He's
Yeah.
gonna go Darth just like his mom's, Darth Yaddle.